Now it's time to start creating your first real post, and that process always starts with adding a title. Anytime you create a new post or page, always begin with a title, even if it's just a working title, to avoid confusion. That way, you won't have to sift through posts without titles or posts titled untitled later on. From here on forward, I'll be building out my site using content from my fictitious company Age Plus Sport, and I want you to follow along with your own content. That way, you'll learn how to use WordPress in the context of your own style of content and find your own preferred ways of doing things. Before I continue, I'm going to toggle on the distraction-free writing mode so we only see the title and the content field and are not distracted by all the other stuff that's happening in our view. I'll start out by adding my title, Age Plus Sport, Vision Come to Life. And then I can start writing content in the content editor. Because WordPress works like a word processing application, you can write your posts directly in the interface if you want. Thanks to the autosave features, you are unlikely to lose anything if your computer runs out of battery or gets disconnected from the web. If, on the other hand, you would like to write content in another application, either on your computer or online, you can do so as well. I typically write short articles and tutorials directly in the content editor and larger pieces in Google Drive so I can get others to help me with editing before it goes live. How you want to work is entirely up to you. As I said in the previous movie, the content editor in WordPress works much like a typical word processing application. This is because just like in a regular word processor, to get your text to display the way you want, you'll have to apply styling to it, and that styling has to work with the medium you're working in, which in our case is the web. Now that we have some content, let's take a look at the available tools in this WYSIWYG editor. By default, the content editor toolbar has only one line of tool buttons. But there's a second row of buttons available if you click the toolbar toggle at the far right. As far as I'm concerned, you should always have the second row open because some of the most important tools are found here. The first button I want to show you is on the second row, and it's the one you'll use every time you want to copy and paste content into WordPress, whether it's from the web or from a document or from somewhere else. This button is this clipboard here that triggers the Paste as Text function. So first, I'll click Paste as Text. This opens a modal window that tells me Paste is now in plain text mode. Contents will now be pasted in as plain text until you toggle this option off, and I'll click OK. Now, I can go to any document I've created before or any website, copy content and paste it in without having to worry about styling being carried over in the process. So, I have a document in Google Drive that I want to publish on my site. You can see it has the same title as what we've used before, so I'm going to leave that alone. And you'll also see there's some styling here. I have some bold text, some italicized text, I have a quote of some kind here, I have a couple of different level headings, and some more bold text. Now, when I copy this from Google Drive to WordPress, I need to strip off all this styling because the styling is for Google Drive. It's not for my WordPress site. And I can do that with that function I just activated. So I'll copy the text here, go back to my editor, and in this case, I'm going to remove what I already have and then paste it in. And you'll remember that I've triggered Paste as Text. You can see it's currently active. And that means when I paste it, we just get text. There's no styling. Now that I have just the text, I need to do a little bit of a cleanup here. In particular, anytime I have a heading, I need to go to the end of the heading, hit delete once, and then hit enter to create a proper break between the heading and the next paragraph. And then I'm good to go. Now that I've pasted in my content, I can turn Paste as Text off and then take a look at the other features in the toolbar. So I'll start from the top here with the styling. You'll remember in my main article, I have some bold text and some italicized text and even this big quote. And now I can apply that to my content. So I'll start by finding the text I want to be bold, highlight it, click the bold button, and now it's strongly emphasized. If I want some text to be italicized, I simply highlight it again, click the italicized button, and now it's italicized. I also have this third option called strike through, which is kind of neat. If you write an article or a page or anything else, and later on you want to change something that was in it, but you don't want that change to disappear, you can highlight whatever you want to change. Let's say I want to change this last part here, and then click strike through, and then the text will show up with a line through it telling people this is what used to be there, but now there's something else. Next, we have bullet lists and numbered lists, or unordered lists and ordered lists. And these can be used to create lists within your content. To create a new list, simply create a new line, then click on the bullet list if you want bullets, and type in your bullets. And when you're done with your list and you want to break back into a regular paragraph, hit return twice. One to create a new bullet, and when you hit return an extra time, WordPress will recognize the last bullet as empty and then just take it away and start a new paragraph. I can also make numbered lists. Click numbered list. And again, if I want to get out of it, hit return twice and you're back to a paragraph. If you've already created a list, let's say the bullet list, and you want it to be a numbered list, you can click on numbered list instead. And note that when I do that and I have these two lists directly above each other, WordPress will automatically merge them together into one cohesive numbered list from 1 to 7. Looking back at my original article, you'll see here I have this quote, and I want the quote to really stand out from the rest of my content. In HTML, we have a feature specifically for this purpose, known as a block quote. If you place your cursor anywhere within a paragraph and then click on this block quote button on the toolbar, that text is broken out and made into a pull quote within your article. It's styled differently and displayed differently, telling the viewer this text has been pulled out, just like in a newspaper article, to highlight it. If you're using a text-to-speech browser, the block quote is also read differently than the rest of the text to clearly emphasize that this is different from the rest of the text. After the block quote button, we have this button called horizontal line. If you go to a new line in your page and you click horizontal line, you literally add a horizontal line within your content. Now this line will be styled differently depending on the theme you're using, but its main function is to show in the markup that there is a separation between the stuff that went before the line and the stuff that comes after. It's actually not used all that often, and it is because you are literally separating the content within your post into different blocks, but if you need it, it's always there. The next 3 buttons and 1 button down on the second row are the alignment buttons. Now, technically, you can use the alignment buttons to align your text right, center, left, or justified. However, your theme is already doing this job for you, and if you start changing the alignment of content, you may mess up how the theme is displaying your content. So I would urge you to not use these features. After alignment, we have the link buttons, which we'll talk about in a later movie, so I'll just leave it for now. Then we have the Insert Read More tag button, which allows us to add what's known as a more tag after some content. Now, I'll talk about this later in the course, but I'll quickly show you how it works. On my index page, I would normally just show all the content from my entire post. But let's say I write epic posts that are 5,000 words long, and I don't want to show all those 5,000 words on my index page. In that case, I can place my cursor somewhere, let's say after the second paragraph, and click Insert Read More tag. Now, on the index page, the user will see the first 2 paragraphs and then a link that says click to read more. Then when they click on that link, they jump to the individual post and get the whole content. If you add a more tag and you want to remove it, you have to go to the text view up in the top right-hand corner here and remove this bracket bang dash dash more dash dash end bracket. That's the only way to get rid of the more tag properly. Now you'll remember I said it's the second row in the toolbar that matters, and now you'll see why. If we go back to the original article, you see here we have content hierarchy. We start with a main title, then we have a subtitle, and within that subtitle we have another subtitle level. In WordPress, we can do the same using this paragraph dropdown here. Now this is an interesting thing. When you create a post in WordPress, the title will always be the heading 1 level title, and you should always have just one heading 1 level. Therefore, when you create your first heading within a post, it's actually heading 2. If I place my cursor on my title here, and I want that to be the primary title, I go to the paragraph dropdown and select heading 2. Now that title is heading level 2, my main title is heading level 1. I also have a second title here, which is going to be heading level 3 because it's subsidiary of the first one. So again, I'll place my cursor where I want it, use the dropdown, select heading 3, and that becomes heading level 3. It's important to use this heading structure properly to create hierarchy within your content. That means all your main headings are going to be heading 2, and if you have any subheadings under those, they're going to be heading 3 or 4 or 5, so that people who use text-to-speech browsers can go through your content and easily find what content is subsidiary of other content. Next to the style dropdown, we have the underline function, which not surprisingly adds underlines to text. Then we have the justify button, which I talked about previously. We have text color, which allows us to highlight any text and apply any color, let's say a hideous orange. Then we have paste as text, which we've talked about previously. And then we get to clear formatting, which is actually quite useful. If you apply a bunch of different styling to some content, let's say we have here purest ingredients is now orange, has an underline, I'm going to make it italicized, bold, and strike through. This does not look very good. I can simply highlight the section where this content is and click clear formatting, and WordPress will strip off whatever formatting has been applied to that entire section. And you noticed that I highlighted more than just the section I had applied formatting to, and WordPress just stripped everything off. Next, we have a tool that James Williamson has said before is the most important tool in any kind of editor, and that is the special characters tool, where you can insert any kind of special character you don't have on your keyboard. Pi symbol, or a paragraph symbol, or something else. It's actually quite useful if you're writing an article about temperatures or something like that, because then you have your little degree sign, and you can't really find that on your keyboard anywhere. Next to special characters, we have indentation, where you can indent content or unindent content. This can be useful for layout purposes, but again, this is something your theme will try to do, so be careful and also check on the front end that everything looks decent after you've done it. And then finally, we have the undo and redo buttons to undo and redo everything you're working on. Once you've finished styling your content, you can now switch from the visual view to the text view to see what this looks like for the browser. Here you can see that in place of having styled content, the browser sees tags. So for instance, the bold text is wrapped in a strong and end strong tag. The emphasized text or italicized text has an M and an end M around it. The block quote is wrapped in the block quote tag, the headings are wrapped in the H2 and H3 tags, and so on. Once all your content is styled to your liking, move your mouse out of the editor field to see all the other panels, and then go to the publish field and click preview. This will open a preview of your post on the front end that only you can see, and here you'll see the content styled the way you set it up. Here we have the title, our main content with some highlighting. We have our block quote, and everything else looks decent. The great thing about this preview is that this is a preview that's only happening in your browser. You're the only one who can see it, and no one else can gain access to this until you publish your post. So, like I said, the content editor toolbar is important, and many of the most important features of the content editor toolbar is found on the second row. Now you know how to create your posts and style the content within that post using the content editor toolbar. In the next movie, we'll move on to the one feature we skipped, the links.